Redox OS strikes back with community etiquette. when I think about this, I think about these cans of oil, how he really hates these cans of oil. There was a video that I put out 4 weeks ago on the release of Redox OS 0.9.0. In that video, I attempted to test Redox OS 0.9, and for whatever reason, the software installer for Redox does not work in the 0.9 release. It had worked in 0.8 in the nightlies all the way up to 0.9, but in 0.9 it does not work. And so, because of that, in this video, I was hypothesizing that it's because when they're cutting a release, they're not actually testing it. And they have a documentation page on hardware that supports Redox OS and the version that works on it. And everything was 0.8, right? And 0.8 was released, I think, 2.5 years ago. So that page has not been updated for 2.5 years. Or maybe there have been incremental updates on that page. But for 0.9, when it was released, it does not appear that it was tested, or if it was tested on any hardware, that documentation, that page was not updated. And so in this video, Redox OS 0.9 released, I talked about when I was looking at that page, the data was just a bunch of text. It wasn't super usable. So what I said in that video was I'll go ahead and I will put this data into a table, just like I do on everybytecounts.org, so that it's more readable. It's more data. It's more concise, basically. And so after I put up this video, or after I recorded this video, I went ahead and created a GitLab issue in the Redox GitLab, and I put some time into it to make sure that everything that I was translating from just plain text into the table is accurate. There was a thing I saw with John Oliver about how on his show, one of the most important things is the fact checkers, the people who make sure that the information that goes into what they're publishing, basically, on his show, all the jokes and everything falls flat if the data isn't accurate. So there's heavy investment to make sure that information that goes up and is being published is accurate. It doesn't seem like Redox does this from all the releases I've seen. But I don't know if it's just the stuff that Ribbon has published or if it's the Redox community as a whole. But maybe I'm only interacting with the stuff that Ribbon does. So I created the ticket and I submitted the pull request with the changes to get all the information accurately into a table. And there was a pretty quick turnaround time. Ribbon got back to me asking for certain specifics to be changed, which isn't unreasonable. He said that Jeremy wanted certain things a certain way. So I did respond to that pretty quickly after Ribbon had, and I was inquiring about details, like what do you want and why do you want it this way in particular? Not what do you want, but why do you want this particular thing changed? And then no updates. So it went from quick turnaround to 2 weeks with no update. So I figured, okay, well, if 2 weeks has gone by, they probably don't want this change, but for whatever reason, they're not commenting. They don't want this change, even though they asked for updates. And so I commented one more time, 2 weeks out. That was sort of my last ditch effort. If they don't want these changes, that's fine. I don't care. I put in the effort. So after 2 weeks, I put in a change. And then a few days later, there was an update. And we'll go over that later. But let's get into the Redox video I did after the 0.9 release. They put out a monthly blog post, and it's release notes for the software updates in Redox, but they don't actually provide an updated release of the software. It's just notes. So is that normal for projects where you update your software, you provide release notes of the updates, but you don't actually release the software? You don't make that software available. You don't cut a new release based on what you're saying was updated for that month. Is that normal? I've never seen that before, so that's new to me. In this video, I brought up about kernel development. There was someone who I started following on YouTube to see what their process is for kernel development, and they're doing Linux kernel development. And they talked about in this video how this person who was going in and reverse engineering the kernel was going in and fixing a architecture that had been broken for years in the Linux kernel, the Spark processor architecture. So if you had a Spark processor, you couldn't run new kernels because for years the Linux kernel had been broken. This is my understanding. And so what this person had done is he had gone in and bisected the code going years back, determining where these bugs were introduced and what they were. And then it seemed like he was putting together code to effectively patch these bugs. And after putting out this video, the original developers had got wind of his findings, and it sounds like they were upset that he had found bugs in their code that they wrote years ago and nobody had looked into. And so the original developers patched They merged in bug fixes. So they sniped all the work that he had done, going back years and reviewing years worth of Linux kernel code. So it just seems like poor etiquette on behalf of open source to just snipe someone else's work like that. I mentioned that. And so now, this was 3 days ago that I put this video out. And so late last night, like 2 a.m., like 2 in the morning, I don't know if someone was GitLabbing on the Redox GitLab under the influence, but I got an update to the ticket that I had initially submitted. And so, see, this is 10 hours ago. The ticket was closed in the middle of the night. And so this was submitted. It had its changes. I don't know if you can effectively show the timeline here. All activity, show thread. Yeah, so this was opened 3 weeks ago. Yeah, and then Ribbon had pretty quickly, Hatred 45, Ribbon 45 years old. So he had proposed a change and it got applied. And this was all relatively in a short time span. This was, I want to say, within hours or days getting all these updates in here. So the turnaround was pretty good for this. Yeah, he asked for a section of the page to be removed. I'm guessing it's basically deprecated by using the table. And then, great, ready to go. I'll send a merge. So I'm like, thanks. So he says he's going to send a merge of the code plus the change he proposed. But then he comes back and says, Jeremy Solar, who's like the person who originally wrote Redox OS, like the founder of it basically, sent some requirements. And this is like the behavior that I see consistently. And I don't know if it's just Ribbon that this behavior is coming from, where they're like, yeah, good to go, we're going to ship it. Actually, no, we're not going to ship it. At least this was the first time there was pushback where I see, they didn't just ship it. They're asking for more. So this is fine. Okay, I'll make these changes, but can I get more information on why you want to split this data up when it all fits in one table? And if you look on Postmarket OS, they have a table where they have supported hardware for like all the hardware, and it's one large table. It makes sense. If you change one value in a column, I don't know if it makes sense to create a whole new table. It feels like it defeats the purpose of the table to me. But I don't know. So that's why I was asking for more information. 3 weeks ago, no updates. So I, basically copy and pasted this comment because I'm not sure why it says pending like this and it's yellow. But the message, I tried sending this message again. I don't know if I should have added Jeremy because it seems like he's the decision maker. I don't know why he didn't just jump in on this ticket. But for whatever reason, in the middle of the night, I don't know if someone was GitLabbing under the influence, but supposedly they improved and completed the changes I suggested in a new ticket. So this is merged. They just cut me out completely out of the proposed change that I had. So this is sort of the etiquette I was referencing. And the thing is, I've opened 25 issues in the Redox OS GitLab. 3 of them were closed. They were probably just general questions, but 22 are open. And the only one that got any work on it is the one where I had already put in most of the work. And then I'm guessing he just copied my code or forked off of my branch and then just did the changes, no comments to me, the original person. And then they're just like, yeah, this is good. We're cutting you out. So my question is, I guess, is this type of behavior from Ribbon with Redox OS, this person representing Redox OS Ribbon, is this type of behavior what you expect when interacting with people on a project? You propose the change, you provide the code, and then they snipe it and close your ticket. Is this normal? I don't know. So what that person saw with the Linux kernel, I'm now seeing it also. Is this widespread in projects? Most of my time in projects has been in closed source projects, and I've never seen anything like this before. They're all projects where everyone is paid, but I've never seen anything like this. So my question is, for people who do have more experience with open source projects, do you see this commonly? Is this normal? I am the snuggler.